Hi guys, Harbs here. Today we're going to be looking at links and references to 5th edition adventures. I won't be covering Descent into Avernus because it is a literal prequel to Baldur's Gate 3, and so the references are vast, ranging from the Dead 3 influence in the cult to the Tiefling refugees and smaller references such as Loroakan and the Zhentarim smoke powder, of which I've already made a couple of videos on. There will be spoilers for the 5th edition adventures that I'll cover in this video, but I've put it into chapters and so you can always skip over any particular adventure that you don't want to have spoiled. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, sign up to the Patreon or join the Discord, then the links are all down below.
Just do it!
Okay, let's go. The Lost Mine of Phandelver was the adventure included in the original 5th edition starter set and takes place in 1491 DR, a year before Baldur's Gate 3. The story centres around the town of Phandelver and the Wave Echo Cave, which contains the Forge of Spells. 500 years ago, gnomes and dwarves made a pact known as Phandelver's Pact, where they agreed to share the magic of the cave. However, this was quickly made void when orcs arrived and attempted to take the caverns for themselves. An alliance of human wizards, gnomes and dwarves defended the caves, but the battles resulted in a cave-in, and the entrance to the magic within was lost. In the adventure, players have to stop the evil drow Nesnar, also known as the Black Spider, from accessing the Forge of Spells after a group of dwarvish brothers known as the Rock Seekers recently found a new way into the caves. In the Blighted Village in Baldur's Gate 3, we can find the following book that gives us details of the pact and a nod towards an ancestor of one of the NPCs in the adventure. In this year 950 DR, there can hardly be a more prosperous and fortunate town than Phandelver. Phandelver's Pact has brought prosperity to this land, splitting the wonders of Wave Echo Cave between gnomes and dwarves. The town now boasts thriving communities of both peoples, living and working together in harmony. We have also tempted human spellweavers from all across the north to our town, who are happy to work side by side with the allies of Phandelver's Pact. Mayor Alderleaf invites you to come and witness this miracle yourself. See the powers being uncovered in the Forge of Spells and the prosperity this power brings. I dare say Neverwinter will soon have a new rival for the title of Jewel of the North. Mayor Alderleaf is a clear ancestor to an NPC called Quilleen Alderleaf, who owns a farm in Phandelver and has a son called Carp, and it's worthy to note that Mayor Alderleaf was never actually mentioned in Lost Mines of Phandelver, so this is something that Larian have created themselves, and it's a nice nod to a relatively small NPC in this adventure. The Tomb of Annihilation is a 5th edition adventure set in the jungle of Chult and centres around a curse known as the Death Curse. This curse acts as a wasting disease, afflicting everyone who's ever been raised from the dead. Victims grow thinner and weaker each day, slowly but steadily sliding toward the death they once denied. The main villain in the adventure is a lich called Acererak, who can actually also be seen on the front of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Now, Tomb of Annihilation was not the first adventure to introduce Acererak, as he was first introduced way back in 1978 in an adventure called Tomb of Horrors, but it's evident that the inscrutable journal we find here in the Harpy's Nest is directly referring to the 5th edition adventure. We've followed Musharib's instructions so far, but something feels odd. We've encountered no creatures along the way, only alien noises from all directions. Sleep evades, and the muck on my boots has hardened into a permanent feature. Hopefully we find lots more hair this morning. I knew there were side effects to coming back, but I didn't expect it to be so Iraq. I hear him laughing, the lamentations of the Amuans droning like a chorus. What is the purpose of this hellhole? He speaks through the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Is he the tomb? Is he... On the last legible page is a crudely drawn charcoal outline of a bearded devil's face, its mouth agape in a silent scream. Musharib is an albino dwarf spirit warrior who works as a guide out of Port Nyanzaru, and he only appears in Tomb of Annihilation. Obviously, the journal is written in a way that has bits missing, and so we can only see part of Asarak's name. But the ending, referring to the crudely drawn charcoal outline of a bearded devil's face, is a reference to the talisman of the sphere, which is worn by Asarak in this adventure. These talismans have been around since 2nd edition, but the one described in the journal is clearly the one that is present in 5th edition, that of a bearded devil. Okay, so Out of the Abyss has a few references. The adventure itself focuses on demons running riot in the Underdark, where demon lords like Demogorgon, Zugtami, Jubilex and Orcus are unleashed. This all happened because Gromp Benrayr, the Archmage of Manzubaranzan, inadvertently botched a ritual meant to summon and bind Demogorgon. When he failed in this endeavour, Demogorgon rampaged through the city, killing thousands. The adventure is tied into the Rage of Demons storyline, which contains a novel by R.A. Salvatore, a number of Adventure League products, and some of the events in the Neverwinter MMO. The adventure introduced for the first time the Society of Brilliance, which we can obviously come across in Baldur's Gate 3, in the form of a hobgoblin called Blurg and a mind flayer called Omelum. These two can be found in Out of the Abyss, except that Blurg is an Orrug instead of a hobgoblin, and Omelum is called Grazilax. They are part of the Society of Brilliance. You could be thinking, well, they're just two different members of this society. Maybe this Orrug simply has the same name, and the Mind Flayer is a totally different Illithid altogether. Well, that can't be the case. There are just too many similarities. Grazilax also appears in the Neverwinter MMO, and it is stated that he once had a deal with a lich called Zarifax, who would give bodies to the Mind Flayer in order for him to feed upon their brains. And Omelum tells us this exact same story in Baldur's Gate 3. So we have a differently named Illithid in the Society of Brilliance, with the same backstory as the one in Out of the Abyss, and a hobgoblin member of the Society of Brilliance with the exact same name as the Orrug in Out of the Abyss. I'm not sure why Larian added in these minor changes. Next is that when we come across the petrified drow, we can have a conversation with Dawn, who reveals that he is an initiate of a place called Graven Hollow. Graven Hollow is a library and was first introduced in Out of the Abyss. It is described as follows in the adventure. The library of Graven Hollow is a bastion of peace and order in an Underdark gone mad. Carved out long ago from the bones of the world and protected by ancient and potent magic, the library possesses a kind of awareness. It blocks and misdirects those unworthy of reaching its gates, even as it facilitates finding the way for those who need it. 3 stone giants serve as Graven Hollow's librarians, one being the keeper of the past, another of the present, and the other of the future. The library remembers all of its visitors, creating echoes of them. These echoes emanate from the past and the future. For example, adventurers in Out of the Abyss can come across an echo of Elminster, who divulges certain details to the party about the demonic invasion. Although Dawn refers to this as a memory shard, in Out of the Abyss they are called Stone Speaker Crystals. It is described as follows in the adventure. A creature attuned to a Stone Speaker Crystal gained the ability to peer through the veils of time and receive visions of the past, present and future, but only while in Graven Hollow. And so given that it says this bit at the end, it may be that Larian has changed them somewhat for Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, thanks for watching guys. There was another adventure that I wanted to include called Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, but I've decided to make a separate, rather wild and crazier theory on this video for a later date. So if you enjoyed this video, then do please give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!